Okay. Hi everyone and welcome to Having Fun with Android Mashups. My name is Per and this is my good friend Martin.
Yes, and a few words about me. I work as a consultant at a company called Epsilon in Sweden. Me and Per has been presenting for a number of years now, and last fall we were awarded the Rockstar Award at Java One in San Francisco. So that was a really great moment for us. I've been working with front-end client-side technology for about 10 years, and most of that with Java, but also with iOS, a lot of JavaScript, some Android, and a bit of PHP as well, if you count that as client-side. I really like beer, and one really good opportunity to have a lot of good beer with a lot of smart people, in addition to DevOps, of course, is a conference called Eurodev in Sweden that just took place last week. And this year I was a program committee member for that conference. And I think it was really interesting to see the conference from that side. I tweet at Gunnarsson, so that's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. So, to sum it up, I guess I'm smart, good-looking, and really humble.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so a bit about you, perhaps.
Enough about you. So,
yes.
This is me. That's all there is to it. I mean, I'm the guy who has to live with all the stupid stuff that Martin does. So, yeah.
Anyways, today we want to, well, the title is Having Fun with Android Mashups, right?
Sure.
And that's kind of a vague title, which makes it really easy or really hard for us. We can pretty much talk about anything we want.
As long as we're having fun with Android.
Yes, we have to have fun. But what we want to do is show clever and fun ways to integrate web content into your Android applications. So we want to kind of find interesting use cases for the web view and try to use it in ways that, well, aren't that obvious. With web content, I mean HTML and JavaScript, and we want to make it work together with the Android app in fun ways, I guess. But I probably talk too much. Perhaps we should just
do something funny.
Yeah, we should have fun. We should show a demo, and to make things hard for us, we always bring all sorts of gadgets. So we'll see how this camera works with your tablet. All right?
So we have created a demo application to show off some of the stuff that you can do with the Android web view. And I'm going to demo the application for you. So it's the main activity. And this is what it looks like. So we have 7 images, and they are rotating. And if you want to know more about a specific picture, you can just click one of them. And you get a full-size picture, and you have some icons in the bottom. And the first one is information from Wikipedia about the specific target on the image. So this is the Golden Gate Bridge, and we can share the image, and we have comments, regarding this specific bridge. In this case, the Golden Gate Bridge, and we can show a map of where the bridge is. And we also have, well, there are different services out there that can provide you with other images that are similar to the one that you're showing. So we can show you other images as well. It looks exactly like this one. So that's it. I think we have one more thing to show. This image this main screen is very important for us. It must be looking really good. So we don't want to put in some icons or some action bar to show the control settings. So we have a control activity as well. So what we've done is, well, all we have to do is make a gesture on the screen to show the settings. Or we can just press back and then do it again.
That looks good.
Sure. So that's how we are having fun with Android. And that's the application.
Yeah, well, one of our main goals here is to kind of make web content blend into the native stuff as good as possible. And I hope we did a good job. Perhaps you could, thank you. Perhaps you could walk us through the application again and adjust your microphone a bit.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.
Sure. So, one more time. This is the main screen. And this is, well, it's Android, of course, but we're using a web view to show the images. I don't know if you can see it, but look at the image in the middle, the big one, when it rotates. You can see that it's 3D, and it's real 3D. It's not some, you know, some stupid 2D that looks a lot like 3D. It's actually 3D. And that's done in the web view.
So all of this is a web view.
It's one web view with 7 images. And then you click on one of them, and we will show you just an image in Android. This is just an activity. And the buttons are just icons. So when we want to show the Wikipedia stuff, the content from Wikipedia, we are asking an API, a Wikipedia API, for content. But we don't get an entire HTML file. We just get the content. And then we have an empty HTML file in our project where we inject the content. So this is HTML. The content is from Wikipedia, and the HTML file is ours.
Right, so we populate this template with data from a web service, basically.
Sure. And what sharing is, well, you can do that, you know, Facebook and Twitter, they all have open APIs, so it's nothing difficult. And the comments is just a normal web page. We don't do anything with it. We just fetch it and we present it. We don't inject anything. And if you were to open that specific web page in a browser, it will look exactly the same. Oops. And then the map. And you have 2 choices. You can go with a map view that's available in Android, or you can just load Google Maps into your own web view. And the power of doing that is, well, the benefits of doing that is that you can manipulate what the view looks like and what is displayed on the screen. So it's really powerful, and we will show you that. And searching for similar images is very much like Wikipedia. Nice. Thank you. It's just like Wikipedia. So we fetch the images from some image provider, and then we populate an empty template. And so it's really easy to do that, and we're going to show you how. Then for the animation where we show the control panel, it's a mix of Android and HTML JavaScript. So what we do is, when we do the gesture, we call JavaScript and tell it to, well, I have a method called explode, because that's what it does. It's a very slow explosion. And at the same time, we fade out the web view and show the control panel. So the explosion is JavaScript, and everything else is Android.
It looks really cool.
So we've mixed some web content with Android, and I'm not sure if you could you guess what part was web view and what part was Android? It's not that easy, actually. So
in some cases, it's easier than others, I guess. But like the main view, that's my favorite. It doesn't really look like a web page at all.
No.
All right. Nice, it works.
So that was the application.
Yes. And so what we're going to do today is like picture a beginner Android developer and kind of go through the different things you have to learn to be able to build an application like this. So we're going to show you all the techniques, the code behind it, and it's kind of we do a lot of cool stuff, but we want to take a technical approach and show how we did it. So we're going to share a lot of tips and tricks, and well, it's not that hard. But what we need to learn, what do we need to learn to build this application? Well, I guess a good first step is just loading a web page. That's kind of what everything else builds upon. So we need to load a web page into a web view. Then we're going to get a bit more familiar with the web view, have a look at the different interfaces and classes that we have to work with when we're using web content. And you never just want to show a static page. That's pretty boring, and we're here to have fun. So we have to talk about communication. And we both want to communicate. We want to send messages from our Android app into JavaScript running in the web view, but also the other way back. We want our web page to be able to tell our Android app about things that's happened and so on. Once all that's done, we need to have a look at how to modify web content. Like with the Wikipedia template, we have just an empty web page with some empty elements, I guess, that we need to populate with data from a web service. So we're going to have a look at that as well. And since you built a large part of this application, I guess we need to have a look at some debugging and error handling as well. Right, so let's begin at the right end by showing just a simple web page.
So loading a web page, we use it, well, everywhere in our application. So the main screen, we have to load a page. For the maps, we have to load a page, and so on. And this is how to do it. This is a very simple example. So in our onCreate method, we create a web view. And then we just load our URL, the web page, by invoking load URL and then just the HTTP part. And that's it. That's how you load a single page and display it in your activity.
That's really easy.
It's very simple.
All right.
And if you do this and you start the application, it will look like this.
Oh, wait a minute. Web page not available.
I know.
You must have made a mistake, I think.
You made a mistake. You forgot the internet permission. So don't forget about it. I mean, you all know about it if you've been working with Android about it.
Yep. It's kind of the first thing that goes wrong. When you try to load something for the first time in a web view, it's like, it doesn't work. The URL is correct, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? All the other programs work, but not mine.
Permissions.
So this is probably what you forgot. I know. I did it, you did it, everybody did it. So,
sure.
All right. But
and when this is done, it will look like this. So we've loaded the Devox page where all the speakers are visualized. And the reason we did this was because, I don't know if you've seen the Devox page, it's pretty heavy. It's a lot of things going on there, and there's a lot of content, and things are flying around. And as you can see, it's rendered just like in any other web page. So the web view that we're using is extremely powerful. And the web view is based on WebKit, the open source project that many of the major browsers uses. So we have support for CSS, JavaScript, media, video, just about anything. So the web view is just as capable as any other browser out there. So you can expect a lot from it.
yeah, and I mean, WebKit is the rendering engine used by Chrome and Safari. So it's it's powerful stuff. You have really powerful tools when working with the web view. But you don't always want to load pages from the internet, right? Sometimes, like in the Wikipedia case, again, we have a locally stored page. So what about that?
You can load a page locally as well by doing this. So it's load URL, just like in the previous example, but just provide it with file, Android asset, and then the file, that your HTML file that is located in your assets folder in Android. So you can load locally pages as well.
So this is kind of a magic URL to that assets folder.
Yes.
All right, cool.
And sometimes you want to load some HTML content from, let's say, the database or some file. Either way, you will end up with a string containing some HTML content. And you can load that as well. So just replace the load URL with load data and pass on the string containing valid HTML. So you have 3 different ways of loading data. So you can load it from the internet, or from the assets folder, or just a text snippet.
Yeah, which basically enables you to load it from anywhere you want. Really.
Anyway, yeah.
Anywhere, yeah, cool. All right, so we can load things. That's not very complicated, but it's something you have to know before you can do all the other cool stuff. So let's have a look at the different files, the different classes, and the different interfaces that we have that we can work with when we're using web content. The first one is, of course, the web view. That's the main component, and that's the one we work with the most, I guess. It's an Android view that you can place anywhere in your layout, and it just happens to render HTML. Inside the web view, there's a web settings object. The web view has one of these when you create one, and that lets you adjust the way the web view works. You can have really fine-grained control over the web view by changing these settings. You can also set a WebViewClient, and this is a client that's mostly used to keep an eye on a web view and find out what it's doing. But there are also some methods in here where you can actually kind of make a decision, should I do this or that, and affect the behavior of the web view if you want. It all depends on which methods you override. And finally, we have a WebChromeClient. And the Chrome, in this case, is kind of the user interface of the web view. So things that are normally not part of the rendered HTML, but other GUI things, I guess. So this might sound a bit abstract, and I think it is. So you're probably all developers, so let's have a look at some of the methods available in these different classes. Right?
Yes.
Good. The web view has kind of a high-level API that does things that you normally tell a browser to do. So in this case, you have like go back or go forward, load a URL, get the URL or the title from the page, reload the page, and so on. Very easy stuff, high-level things that you normally have buttons for in a browser, I guess. So that's a very simple API. The settings object is much more detailed. Here you have a lot of different properties that you can set the value for, and by doing that, you're controlling the behavior of the web view. So there are many, many different settings. Here are a few examples. We can enable or disable plugins. There are plugins for the web view, and we can control whether they should be allowed or not, I guess. We can decide whether we want to cache and how big that should be. So if we do really advanced stuff like loading a lot of images and stuff like that, we can have a very big cache to make things run a bit better or worse, depending on the circumstances, I guess. And the final example is adjusting zoom behavior. Should zoom be enabled? What should the initial zoom be? Should the user be allowed to change it, and so on? So these are a number of things you can do by changing properties in the settings object. The WebViewClient that you can create and set on the web view, like I said, it has a lot of callbacks telling you what the web view is up to. For these examples, we have onload resource that just lets you know that I'm about to load this resource. You can't really do anything about it, but I'm going to do it. Also, on received error, something went wrong. There's not really much to do about that either, but it happened. And the third one is kind of important, on page finished. If we want to interact with a page, it's very good to wait until it's fully loaded first. Otherwise, things we expect to be there might not be there yet. On a slow connection, loading a page might take a few seconds, and if you just keep executing your code, well, not much will have had time to load yet. And finally, an example of a way to control the behavior of the web views through the WebViewClient, and that's the method called should override URL loading. And here you get a callback to this every time the web view wants to load something, and you can sort of have a say in that, like don't load it, go ahead and load it, or load it from somewhere else, I guess. So that's also a very useful method. And finally, like I said, the WebChromeClient is more related to user interface things. For the examples here, we have onJS alert, which is when JavaScript wants to display an alert dialog, you know, those annoying dialog boxes. Here we can decide whether or not it should be displayed and display it any way we want to, I guess. We also get callbacks when the page load progress changes, so that we can have a nice progress bar showing what's going on, or a spinner, or whatever we want. And we can also get a list of previously visited pages in case we want to have like a history menu in our application, I guess. So things related to the user interface around the web view, I would say. So these are the classes that we work with. And together they form a very complete set of tools for integrating web content into your apps. And what I like particular about it is that it has a very nice division into different areas of responsibility. Like the UI stuff goes in WebChromeClient, and WebSettings does this, WebViewClient does that. It's not just everything merged into one file, I guess, or class. So it's kind of a nice architecture, I think, and it's nice to work with.
Yes, so this is all you need to leverage the WebView.
Leverage the awesome power of HTML5.
Sweet.
Buzzwords.
So we've shown you how to load a page, and we've shown you the under the hood stuff. And I think it's time to actually do something. Ooh. So what I'm going to show you is the first part of our application where we spin the image. And to do that, we need to communicate between Android and JavaScript. And this is JavaScript in the web page, in the WebView. So this is our start page. This is the images that rotates. And as I said, this is pure HTML. Well, it's HTML and some JavaScript and CSS. But the CSS and the JavaScript and the HTML, it's actually pretty stupid. So this is only our view. We don't have any specific logic in the JavaScript. So we present images, but we control from Android when to switch images and which image to switch. So we need to be able to communicate between Android and the WebView. So I'm going to start with a very simple example of how to do this. So I'm creating a WebView, and I'm loading some page, doesn't matter what page, and then I'm enabling JavaScript. JavaScript is disabled by default. So I use the web settings, and I invoke set JavaScript enabled true. So that's it. And then we just communicate by invoking load URL and then some JavaScript. So in this case, we have some function, but you can write any valid JavaScript and pass it to that method, the load URL, and it will be executed in the JavaScript part of the page. So it's very simple, but it's extremely powerful, so you can control the web in whatever way you like. A more concrete example is, well, we have some very simple HTML. It's an H1 element, and it says headline, and we're going to change it. So we create a web view, and we load this HTML, and then we turn on JavaScript, and we just, by invoking document, get element by ID and head. So we get the reference to the head element, and we just change the inner HTML. And that's how we modify the content. So it's very simple. Now, for the real example, I would say it's a little bit more complicated. So I will try to explain how it works. So actually flipping an image. This is what our code looks like. We have this card in the middle, and that's just a container. It's a div element, I think. So it's a container. And then we have two images, one in the front and one in the back. And we just flip them. It's very, very easy. So we have two images, and we just flip them.
So for every image, we have a card like this. We have 7 of these next to each other.
7 cards, yes.
Right.
And the one in the back is not visible, and it's turned upside down. So you can just rotate it. It's very simple. And it doesn't look like this. It's more like this. You will only see the front image. That's it. So let's take a look at the code. This is HTML. We have the div element, and that's the card. So you can think of it as a real card that you can just flip. And we have 2 images in this container, front and back. And you can see the ID, 1 front and 1 back. And we have 7 of these divs. And in this state, it's just a div with 2 images. It's not a card. So we have to look at the CSS to see what's going on. So on the card, on the container, we say that it should take 2 seconds for every translation. So every time we flip the card, we are supposed to wait 2 seconds for the entire animation. And we also set something called preserve 3D. And that means that, well, this is the CSS for the card. So the container or the card will flip. Preserve 3D means that all its children will be flipped as well. So the div and the 2 images will be flipped because of the preserve 3D. And then we say that the card that is turned the card that is on the back should be hidden. We don't need to see that. And then we just we rotate the back card 180 degrees, like this. That's what we do. So we still haven't done anything. This is just setting up the stage. We have no animation yet. So this is just preparation for the actual translation, the transform.
And we've kind of left out the boring parts, like positioning the images on top of each other. That's just setting their position. So that wouldn't really fit in here, but it's also not very complicated.
So we have the HTML and we have the CSS. So we have a card, and it's like this. The next thing we have to do is actually rotate it. So we have this JavaScript method that is named change image, and we will invoke this method from Android every time we are about to flip one of the images. So the parameters are source, that's the image URL, and we have index, and the index is, well, it's a number from 1 to 7 depending on which card to flip. So we have 7 images. And the degrees are, well, how much? So it's 180 degrees the first time, and then we rotate it at 360 degrees, and the next time, some other number. So it's very easy. And we start by getting the card, the actual container. And we need that to see, we need to decide which one of the images are in front, because we might have turned 180 degrees.
Yeah, and these names are a bit confusing as well, because once you flip the image, the back image is in the front, so perhaps we should have called those classes something else, but it works.
Yes, so we get the container, and then the side is just the image that is in front of us right now. And then we get the image that is located in front of us. That's the image. And we change the source of the image. The image source equals source. So now we have the same card with the same image in the front, but we've changed the image in the back. And then we just apply the rotation on the last line. So on the WebKit transform, we assign it to rotate X and the number of the degrees. So it's like 180 or 360 and so on. And that's what we have to do. So we've done the JavaScript part, we've done the HTML part, and we've done the CSS part. And all we have to do is invoke this from Android. And just like before, we invoke WebKit and load URL, and we just invoke the method. And in this case, we have some URL pointing to a specific image. And we say that it's the second card, and it should be turned 180 degrees.
Yeah, so I guess you could say communicating from Android to JavaScript is actually the easy part here.
It is.
This 3D stuff is a bit more complicated to get your mind around, but you can do it. I mean, it's not that complicated, really. It might take you a day or so to kind of start thinking in this.
I'm not a web developer, and I did this, and I spent like a day reading up on the CSS part, and the code I produced was really bad, so you had to fix it, but it worked. And if I had another day, I could just fix it myself and make it really good looking as well, the code. So I don't think it's that difficult at all.
All right, so we have images flipping, and we are displaying new images constantly, but we also have to go the other way around, like I said. We have to be able to let our Android app know that something has happened in the web page. And we use that when the user clicks or touches an image. We could have done that in Android code, I guess. We could have interrupted that gesture or that touch event and try to find out which image is located at these coordinates and so on. But I think it's actually much easier to do it from the web view. We get an event on the correct element to begin with, and we can just tell the Android app that something has happened. And we've already seen how to communicate from Android to JavaScript, right? We had strings of JavaScript code being sent into the web view and executed, and, well, everything just works, I guess. But it's not it's kind of a brute force approach to communication. You just send messages, do this. And that wouldn't really work the other way around. I mean, if I was writing an Android app, I would never execute a string of Java code coming from some web page. I mean, that would be insane and not very secure. So this requires a bit more of a sophisticated solution, and luckily there is one. So in Android, you can create any Java object, really. You can just create an object of any type you like, and then you can sort of inject a mirror image of that into the web view, into the JavaScript context. So if you have a method with an object with 3 methods, the JavaScript object will have the exact same methods. And by invoking them or by calling them, we can actually have our Java code run in our Android app. And we can pass arguments from JavaScript into Android, and Android can return data back to JavaScript. So this is a very nice way to integrate code between the two worlds or contexts that we're working with here. And what I particularly like about this is that Android is always in control. Android is kind of exposing individual resources to JavaScript. Because you never know if you're loading a web page over the internet, you never know what you'll end up with. There might be some man-in-the-middle attack invoking or injecting some evil scripts into the results. So you should never really trust the contents of the web view if you're loading it through from the internet. But here you can choose carefully to expose certain areas of functionality from your Android app. So you just don't allow JavaScript to do whatever it wants. You should be pretty picky about this. So it's a nice solution, and let's have a look at the code. In our app, we create a class called callback for some reason, for the lack of a better name, and that has a single method called openImage. And it takes a string as an argument, and that's the URL of the image we want to open. The implementation is very simple. That's not really interesting right now.
It's only Android.
Yeah, we can pretty much do anything we want with this string that we get. Then the magic happens. We use a method on WebView called add-JavaScript-interface, where we create a new instance of the callback class and inject that into our JavaScript context. And we get to decide its name as well. So in this case, we call it Android, because the JavaScript wants to communicate with Android. And by doing this, like I said, we'll get a mirror image of this callback object called Android in the global JavaScript context. So from any function in JavaScript, we can just call android.openImage. And it looks like this. We actually have another function in between, a JavaScript function that just takes the index of a card and gets that card and finds the URL of the current image from that. So it kind of translates between an index and the current URL. And like I said, we just call Android openImage with the URL. And then we're free to do whatever we want with it in Android. And these events come from an on-click event handler in our HTML. So it's as simple as it could be, really. Simple function call in JavaScript that generates a method call in Android, and there you have it. So, well, this works really well. I think it's a good way of working.
So now we know how to flip the image and how to respond to clicks on the image. So the front page is pretty much done. I mean, that's all there is to it. And the next step is to modify the content, and we need to modify the content to show the Wikipedia stuff, like this. And this is very, very easy. So you have a lot of open APIs out there. You have Wikipedia, you have Facebook, you have everything. And in this case, we use Wikipedia. And we can just ask for some, well, in this case, the Golden Gate Bridge, like we've shown you. And we will get JSON in return. And this is just JSON containing, pure content. So the name and the description and the link. And we get that to our Android application. And this is how we do it. And I'm sorry, because this code is really bad. We did it in the easiest way possible. So we just create an input stream reader, and we just read everything into a buffered reader. And we end up with a builder containing all the content. And then we create the JSON object. And in the end, we have a single item that points to the content.
Yeah, I guess
this is pure Java. It's nothing strange. It's nothing specific.
No, I guess it's kind of the quick and dirty way of doing it. I guess most people would use a nice framework that handles all of the downloading and parsing and so on. But
yes,
this is the way it actually works without using any third-party libraries and so on.
So quick and dirty. We
Yes,
like that.
that's the way we like it. Yep.
So the important thing is that we can fetch data from wherever we like, and we have it in JSON. And we have our empty template. This is just a web page that is empty, and you can see we have a headline, and we have a snippet, and we have the link. That's it. And the next step is to just inject the content, and we've already shown you how to do this. So we get the headline from the JSON part, and then we call load URL. And by invoking document, get the element by ID, and setting the inner HTML, we will just change the content. And we do it for the headline, we do it for the description, and for the link. And we do it in the exact same way for the page showing similar images. I mean, we just have an empty template with a bunch of images with no source. We can just inject our images into that page. It's very, very simple.
Yeah, and it's like when you show code like this on a slide, you want to keep things as simple as possible, but the possibilities are really endless. I mean, you could have a really advanced template created by a super talented web designer, I guess, and populate that with content any way you want. You could create HTML on the fly and so on. So this is probably the simplest example possible, but it shows, I guess it scratches on the surface of what could be done with this technique. And I like it a lot because HTML is great for formatting content, and there are a lot of good web designers out there, so why not use their skills to sort of present things in a nice way? So
in our case, we have a specific theme in our application, so we don't want to bring in something different. I mean, we could have shown just Wikipedia, or we could have shown Facebook or whatever, but they have a different theme. So Facebook is white and blue, and we have a totally different theme. So we want to decide how it should look, and that's why we do it in this way.
And kind of have control over the presentation, I guess.
Yes.
If something changes on the other website, it might just look ugly. So this way we carefully get the data and fill out the blanks, I guess. When you're working with stuff like this, things don't always go as planned. I don't know, but things happen, you know. And there aren't that many tools to kind of debug JavaScript running in the web view, I guess. Not that I've been able to find, at least. But there are a few tricks that is nice to know of. In JavaScript, there's a method called, there's an object called console, and it has methods to print like info messages, warnings, errors, and so on to a console object. And the console is like the developer tools in the browser. So if you're running Chrome or Safari, you have the developer tools, and I guess they're built into Firefox as well these days, and even Internet Explorer has a debug console. So it would be great if we could use this on Android as well, and it turns out we can, which is great. So by using console error, we can actually get a line printed in the regular Android log, I guess. And not only do we get the message, what we can see here, we get the date and time, and it's an error, and it comes from the web console, but we also get the source of the message, which can be really useful when you're debugging stuff, like find out what text is printed from where, and so on.
And you even get the line number. It's the last part.
Exactly.
The last part.
Both the file and the line number.
5, so
yep. That's cool. But perhaps you want to do something more advanced and not just print everything out. And there is a method for that in WebChromeClient called onConsoleMessage. And there you basically get a console message object that contains all this information, and you can do whatever you want with it, like display it or write it to some other file or whatever you want. So it's good, I think, that you can at least take care of these things yourself and maybe use it as build something, a home-built debug tool, I guess. I don't know, but the hook is there. But there are so many other things that can go wrong when you work with web content, at least when you fetch it from the internet. Imagine sitting in a coffee shop and using this application, I guess, on the Wi-Fi. The idea is, of course, that we go through the Wi-Fi of the coffee shop to the web, get the web page, and display our comments in the nice dialog box there, or nice pop-up. But many of these Wi-Fi networks don't let you do that, at least not always. It might happen that they ignore your request completely and send something different back to you. So you might end up with, welcome to Starbucks, yay, which is nice, but it's not what we want to display. We only want to display our content, and if we get something else, we might as well, ignore it. I think I dislike this a lot. I really don't like it because it breaks the illusion that we have set up. We are displaying web content as a part of our app, and we want it to be as seamless as possible. We don't want the web content to be treated any differently than the native stuff, I guess. And when you get something like this, it's ruined. I mean, it's immediately obvious that, oh, that's just a web page. That's no fun. So we can actually take care of this. In the WebViewClient, there's a method called should override URL loading. And we get the web view, and we get the URL that we're trying to load. And we can basically say yes or no. Go there or don't go there. So here we can check is this the URL that we wanted to load? If we requested our comments page and get like buyourwifi.com or something from Starbucks, perhaps that's not the content we expected. Another thing that could go wrong is that something just breaks down. The request failed. We got an error. And there's a method for that as well called onReceivedError. We get the web view and some information about the error itself. And in both these cases, I think it's nice to have like a prepared error page, and not one that says, ooh, error, but a nice friendly comments not available at this time or something like that. So you can sort of have a different content for the web view. You don't have to do anything specific with the UI, just to replace the content of the web view with something that lets the user know that, well, something went wrong, click here to try again, or we'll try again in a minute, or whatever. So there are ways of controlling these problems, I guess. But there are other things that could potentially be a problem, right?
Sure. So when you're using a mirror object in your JavaScript, it's very convenient, and you can communicate back to Android. That's sweet. But you have to think about the threading. So all the callbacks that you get from the JavaScript. So when you call a mirror object in JavaScript, you will get invoked in Android, but you're not on the UI thread. So take care and make sure that you run on the UI thread. So just run on UI thread and provide it with a runnable and do whatever you like. So if you in JavaScript tell Android to do something that is affecting the view, you have to do it in this way. Otherwise, it will probably crash sooner or later. So just a warning.
And most of the time, I guess you will be running like UI updates and stuff like that. So things could potentially break down.
Yes.
All right, but I think we've actually seen everything we need to learn to build this app. So to sum things up, we've kind of divided the work a bit in this project. You've worked on the Android code. So how was it for you to work this way, like with some content for the app that you're not really in control of, I guess?
For me as an Android developer, it's pure Android code. And well, I haven't changed anything. The only thing I'm aware of is this new method, load URL. And I mean, you could provide me with a JavaScript, and I can just insert it. So it's the same as any other application out there. So it's the same.
Yeah, and for a web developer, it's also pretty much the same, because WebKit, like we said, it's a very powerful rendering engine, and it does everything sort of the way you expect it to. It's not Internet Explorer. It does things correctly, and that's really good. You can do everything that you expect to be able to do, and actually more, because your friendly Android developer guy here can provide you with superpowers for your web app that lets you do things that you normally can't. Like, not that it's a good idea, but you could get access to the file system and do whatever you want. I mean, it's up to what's a smart thing to expose to the JavaScript, I guess. And I think it was great fun. CSS works really well. JavaScript works really well. Debugging can be a bit tricky, but we worked most things out. And even if you just execute a line of JavaScript using the execute script method, you will get console logs if something goes wrong. So that's a very nice way of working with it, I think. And well, the result is pretty cool. I think we managed to come up with a cool app. And what I like most about it is that the main view for the app is not like it's not like a forced example of what you could do with a web view. It's actually the best solution to the problem. If you want to have images flipping and rotating and things like that, the web view is actually the best solution for that. At least I think so. You don't have to write an awful lot of code, and when you're using 3D transforms with CSS like this, they're hardware accelerated on Android. So they run really smoothly, and you don't have to worry about OpenGL and all that kind of stuff, or whatever you would have to resort to in Android. But with some really nice high-level code, you get powerful 3D transforms and so on. So I approve. It's cool. And we have some time left, so
Let's start up the application again.
Sure. And we can
take questions.
Yeah. Any questions? Yes?
I really like this talk. It's really well explained. I have a question about getting the information out of screens, the density and the size of the screens. Can you do it only in JavaScript, or do you have to look it up to Android?
Okay, getting the size and density of the screen in JavaScript or not. Well, you can do it from JavaScript, or you could do it from Android. So
yes.
you can do both.
Both
Yep.
ways. Yes.
From which version does this work?
The WebView?
Yeah.
Oh, from which Android version does the WebView even exist, I guess? It's been there for a long time,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
for a long time, but I'm not sure. But for a long time, yes. Yeah, I think so. Okay.
If you could use a framework like what?
jQuery.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You should. It works great. So, yeah. I haven't tried that, but I guess it should work. Yeah, or you could have a reference to it in your HTML. But you could basically put any JavaScript you want in that long string. It will be a really long URL, but it will probably work. So yeah, I guess. And jQuery makes life so much easier for you as a web developer. So you wouldn't want to be without it, I guess. Right? Yes?
You have this Java object that was also represented in JavaScript, right? Could you also use that to send messages from Java to JavaScript?
Right. If you have this mirror object that we like to call them in JavaScript, could you use that to communicate from Java to JavaScript?
Well, you can return values.
Yeah, I
so
guess that's...
if you call from the JavaScript part, you can call a method in Android, and you can return whatever you like. So
The initiation is then always on the JavaScript side?
yes.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any way to listen to something on that object. You would have to use the execute script method to sort of tell JavaScript to go look up something in the object or pass data into it or something. So there are ways. Cool. Right. We don't have any more questions, so thank you so much for coming, and I hope you liked the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.